I have a complete love and hate relationship with this K-drama. I hate it so much, I criticize and complain about it. But I love it so much, I'm willing to make a video that compiles everything that happens in the show into one cohesive timeline. Except, this is a time traveling show, so it will be really confusing if I show the timeline from everyone's perspective. Instead, I'm going to explain different time travel theories, what time travel theory I think Sisyphus follows, and show the story from 3 major characters' perspective. Ugh, I can't believe I'm doing this. If you'd like more information on this topic, I'd recommend this video that explains most theories pretty well. There are definitely more time travel theories, but I'm going to use the ones I'm more familiar with and keep this section as brief as possible. Edge of Tomorrow. Based on the film and manga, in this theory, time keeps looping until you find a possibility that lets you escape it. Similar to Groundhog Day and Happy Death Day, you retain your memories of the past loops. Back to the Future. Based on the film, in this theory, past events can be changed, but getting involved with past events can create paradoxes and alternate timelines. Like if your ancestors died too early, you can't exist to be able to travel back in time, so you just disappear from existence. Steins Gate. Based on the visual novel and anime, in this theory, some past events can't be changed unless you are on a completely different timeline, known as alpha and beta attractor fields, with more probably unaccounted for. By hopping onto another timeline, the world becomes dramatically different, where people destined to die in one attractor field may be alive in another. Harry Potter. Based on the 3rd book in the series, Prisoner of Azkaban, in this theory, every occurring event is predestined and will occur. The only thing that changes is the time traveler's perspective. Sisyphus combines a few fictional time travel theories, which to be honest is pretty confusing. Everything is predestined, like in the Harry Potter theory, but some things can be altered. Time keeps looping like Edge of Tomorrow, but no one retains their memory. It's not clear what can and can't be changed, but you know what? Knowing how stubborn we humans can be, we're gonna try anyway. Just a heads up, there's gonna be major spoilers for Sisyphus, so please continue at your own risk. In Sisyphus, we see 3 major timelines, which I will label as Alpha, Beta, and Gamma timelines. The Alpha timeline is the K-drama where Tae-sul creates the uploader for Sigma because Seo-hae is dying, and So Won-ju is Sigma. The Beta timeline is in the last episode where Eddie becomes Sigma, and finally, the Gamma timeline is where Tae-sul has killed himself, but So Won-ju creates the uploader. Before we continue, I want to explain 2 concepts. In Sisyphus, there are some parts in the show where people start to disappear, or as I'd like to call it, flickering. Now, originally this was going to be called a time paradox, but this disappearing phenomenon can occur with no time paradoxes present, based on the injections the Control Bureau gives to Seo-hae, hence the term flickering. Here are some of the rules I've managed to conclude from the show. Flickering occurs when you are near your past or future self, forcing the future self to be overwritten by the past self. Your past self will gain the memories of your future self, and thus you will have foresight about your potential future. For example, if older Seo-hae fully disappeared in this scene, younger Seo-hae would have all of older Seo-hae's memories because the future data becomes overwritten by the past data. Flickering occurs after a time traveler has traveled, not because data is being overwritten, but because mind and body are trying to rebuild itself. Unfortunately, many time travelers will not be able to rebuild properly and will end up disappearing forever into a wandering state. While you are flickering, you can interact with those in a wandering state. A wandering state is when your mind is floating around but cannot find its body. You can also bring physical things with you from the real world, somehow. While you are flickering, sometimes you will see old memories and experience past events. You can only watch and generally cannot interact with the memory, except in some circumstances. While you are flickering, it can feel like an out-of-body experience. Things that happen while you are flickering don't actually happen, but can certainly feel real. In addition to flickering, there's also the concept of a catalyst. So this isn't an official scientific time travel term, but you'll see it often in time travel stories. The catalyst is something that is persistent within each time loop. For example, in the film Edge of Tomorrow, when the main character dies, time resets. However, he still knows how he died and knows not to repeat it. In this case, the character's memory is a catalyst. In Sisyphus, Seo-hae's diary is a catalyst because it is persistent within each time loop. It changes every loop, but it gives her foresight and hints about the future, so she can either repeat it or make another decision. Thus, a catalyst allows characters to break out of their destiny, so to speak. Alright, if you just want the ending explained, you can skip to this part. Otherwise, I'm going to show you how these three characters experience the alpha timelines in chronological order. Now, I'm only covering these three characters, Kang Seo-hae, Sigma, and Han Tae-san, because Han Tae-sul's perspective doesn't really span across multiple timelines compared to these three. Sisyphus, according to Kang Seo-hae, Alpha 1 timeline. Okay, this is going to be kind of confusing, but I'll do my best to explain it. Earlier, I mentioned an Alpha, Beta, and Gamma timeline. Alpha is when Seo Won-jun becomes Sigma. Beta is when Eddie becomes Sigma. Gamma is when Seo Won-jun invents the uploader. There are two Alpha timelines, one that we don't see, and one that plays out in the entire show. We'll call them Alpha 1 and Alpha 2. In the Alpha 1 timeline, Tae-sul and Seo-hae get married and have a ceremony, but Sigma kills Seo-hae and Tae-sul finishes the uploader for Sigma. In the Alpha 2 timeline, Tae-sul and Seo-hae are at the church but kill Sigma, which ultimately allows the Alpha 2 timeline to merge into the Beta timeline. With me so far? Okay, here's the Alpha 1 timeline from Kang Seo-hae's perspective. I'll be using the terms first Seo-hae and second Seo-hae to differentiate when she travels back in time. First Seo-hae is 8 years old when the missile strikes South Korea. Her parents take her to a shelter, but her mother doesn't survive. Her father teaches her combat and survival skills for the next 15 years or so. First Seo-hae finds a diary buried next to a pair of corpses. This diary was written by second Seo-hae and tells first Seo-hae that the future can be changed if she goes back in time and avoids second Seo-hae's mistakes. She travels back in time to the year 2020. She now becomes second Seo-hae. Second Seo-hae encounters Jae-sun, who takes her in. However, the Control Bureau is alerted by her presence and sends a team to capture her. She and Jae-sun escape and they buy train tickets to Busan. However, Seo-hae leaves without him and does not write him the winning lottery numbers. Jae-sun will no longer reappear in this timeline. Second Seo-hae rescues Tae-sul and leave the conference together, but are captured by Asian Mart. They escape with another time traveler who gives them information about Tae-san appearing at a party. Second Seo-hae and Tae-sul plan their infiltration. Second Seo-hae meets with Eddie, but gets compromised. During her escape, she encounters Tae-san, who warns her to stay away from Tae-sul because she's the reason Tae-sul will finish the uploader. But for some reason, everyone likes demanding other people to do stuff without any explanation. Second Seo-hae escapes by using an EMP blast. After recuperating, she goes to Asia Mart and offers them a deal. She sends her EMP device to Tae-sul so he can escape. They are reunited and open the safe, finding a letter from Tae-san. Second Seo-hae and Tae-sul go to the amusement park. She gets captured by the Control Bureau and is injected 3 times, causing her to enter into a wandering state. Tae-sul breaks in and escapes with the help of Asia Mart. Second Seo-hae encounters Tae-sul in her wandering state. He gives her the injection she needs to go back. Second Seo-hae and Tae-sul go to his elementary school and learn about Sigma's childhood. They are surrounded by the Control Bureau but escape once more, without the help of his bodyguard. Second Seo-hae and Tae-sul find first Sigma. They threaten to kill him but are interrupted by second Sigma. Tae-sul refuses to kill first Sigma until he knows his brother is safe. Second Seo-hae gets frustrated and leaves. Afterwards, Tae-sul finds second Seo-hae at her future shelter. He proposes to her and get married on October 31st, 2020. At their ceremony, Sigma shoots Seo-hae and forces Tae-sul to finish the uploader. Once he's done, Sigma kills the both of them. This is a rough estimate of the Alpha 1 timeline and is pure speculation. However, it is hinted at throughout the show that this timeline exists and is the main reason why characters are doing what they do. The fact that the wedding never takes place during the actual show proves that there is another timeline where they tried to stop Sigma but failed. This failed timeline is what I just described as the Alpha 1 timeline. We can assume that once second Seo-hae receives her diary for the second time, she writes down everything, so first Seo-hae can see what worked and what didn't when time loops again. In the Alpha 2 timeline, the biggest change is Jae-sun. This is because second Seo-hae doesn't know what a misogamist is until she meets Jae-sun's sister. By understanding what a misogamist is, second Seo-hae now knows that she doesn't have to believe in marriage. This small change would not have happened unless second Seo-hae gave Jae-sun the winning lottery numbers, which she most likely did not do in the Alpha 1 timeline because she got married, and most likely did not know what a misogamist was. So in the Alpha 2 timeline, second Seo-hae gave Jae-sun the winning numbers as depicted in the show, which allowed her to get rescued by Jae-sun and meet Jae-sun's sister to tell her what a misogamist was, which allowed her to get protected by Jae-sun, which allowed second Seo-hae and Tae-sul to stop second Sigma and break out of the Alpha timeline. Holy cow, that was a lot, right? Hopefully, you were able to keep up with me, and it will only get more convoluted and confusing as I explain the next two characters. Sisyphus according to Sigma, Alpha 1. A reminder, once again, that the Alpha 1 timeline is pure speculation. Don't take these as facts, okay? I'm just kind of speculating here what I think is happening during the Alpha 1 timeline from Sigma's perspective. First Sigma was a troubled child, living with an abusive father. His only escape was Han Tae-sul, whom he looked up to as a child genius. After creating an accidental fire at home, First Sigma grew up as an orphan and aspired to be a painter. Unfortunately, he wasn't quite talented despite having the proper materials. His admiration for Han Tae-sul soon turned into jealousy, and he started writing hate comments against him, prompting the police to investigate First Sigma for defamation. After writing an apology, First Sigma attempts to commit suicide, but is interrupted by a missile strike. Fortunately, he boarded up his room to prevent others from finding his body too soon, which prevented radiation from leaking in. He would spend the next month or so surviving in his room. In order for him to plot his revenge accurately, he had to take into account when he could play the stock market and when Tae-sul would be the most vulnerable. He tracked all of the moments Tae-sul was attacked and determined whether or not it would be the correct moment for First Sigma to kill him. The only opening, of course, was mere moments before the missile strike occurred. And so, conspiring with many others to gain control over politics and government forces, he goes back in time to the year 2001, becoming Second Sigma, and executing his plan. He invests in stocks, but sells his shares just before 9/11 and becomes a major investor in quantum and time. Second Sigma poses as a janitor to keep an eye on Han Tae-sul. At this point, Second Sigma makes sure both Tae-sul and Seo-hae don't die, but are always on their toes so they could develop their relationship through the hardship and conflict they go through. Second Sigma encounters Tae-sul at their elementary school, but they escape. It is not known if Tae-sul attacks Second Sigma at quantum and time at this time. Second Sigma ambushes Tae-sul and Seo-hae at their wedding, killing her for the completion of the uploader. Second Sigma survives the missile strikes and nuclear bomb, creating a haven in post-nuclear Seoul. Around 15 years later, Second Sigma encounters First Seo-hae and her father, allowing her to go back in time to ensure everything he's done so far will act accordingly. Second Sigma kills Seo-hae's father, sending his gun in his hand as a package to Second Seo-hae. Second Sigma sends a nuclear warhead through the uploader. Nothing is known afterwards. First, Tae-san may have woken up at this point and have taken the uploader to look for his younger brother. Doing this will loop the Alpha 1 timeline. Before we move on to Han Tae-san's perspective, the third character, I want to expand on the catalyst theory. Time will always loop, but the one thing that remains persistent with each loop is a catalyst. A catalyst gives a time traveler the advantage of foresight, knowing what's going to happen ahead of time. The reason why you trust your catalyst is because it's something only you can recognize when you interact with it. Tae-sul, his ashes. Seo-hae, her diary. Sigma. Now, I'm not really sure what Sigma's catalyst is. It might be the picture he has of Tae-sul and Tae-san that has the dates behind it, but it also could be his paintings, but I'm not entirely sure. Tae-san, his camera. There's a quote from Second Sigma in episode 15 where he says we need Tae-san to wake up and get on the uploader and go find his little brother for this story to begin again. However, the one thing that Second Sigma forgot to calculate was what first Tae-san would bring back with him in his luggage. This is why the Control Bureau and Asian Mart are adamant about getting that suitcase, because they don't know what information Tae-san is passing on to Tae-sul. Because they never claim it first, Sigma loses in the Alpha 2 timeline and events have changed for good. Unfortunately, it opens up a beta timeline, a time loop where Eddie becomes Sigma. I'm sure there's an entire story to tell here as to how Eddie restarted the loop, but I'm not going to dive into it because there's not enough information to lay it all out. How do we know it's a loop? Because Eddie knows that he has to go to the church and kill Seo-hae to threaten Tae-sul to get the uploader to finish. To prevent this loop from starting over, Tae-sul kills himself, and it works. Those who came from the future disappear, as it's impossible for them to be there in the past if the uploader doesn't exist. However, as time goes on, First Sigma in the peaceful Gamma timeline finds Seo-hae's father's catalyst, which is his notebook about the previous timelines. By reading the notes and connecting all of those dots about the possibility of time travel, First Sigma realizes time travel can be achieved and will eventually become the new Han Tae-sul who invents the uploader. Okay, let's rewind back to Han Tae-san's perspective. What if Sigma's picture of Tae-san and Tae-sul was first Tae-san's catalyst? After all, the only person who could have taken and developed that photo was Tae-san. When Tae-san touched that picture, he gained the foresight of what was going to happen to his younger brother, which made him go a bit crazy that someone was out to hurt Tae-sul, especially since the dates were written on the back. With information from the future plus those dates, it made him rather paranoid. So let's retrace Han Tae-san's footsteps with this theory. Sisyphus, according to Han Tae-san in the Alpha 1 timeline. Once again, the Alpha 1 timeline is pure speculation. The only event we know that happens for sure in this timeline is the wedding. First, Tae-san has taken the odd jobs to support his younger brother. One day he encounters a strange man on the subway tracks that has a photo of him and his brother. Touching this photo gave him visions of the future, because first Tae-san used his camera to take this exact photo sometime in the future. First, Tae-san has never been the same since. He began speculating that people are out for him and his brother, especially because of the dates written on the back of the photo. First, Tae-san fakes his own death to keep tabs on Sigma's whereabouts. It's possible first Tae-san has found the other members of Sigma's groups while looking for the actual person. First, Tae-san waits patiently for the dates written on the back of the photo. These include the conference and the party. First, Tae-san is at the conference and spots Sigma. Unfortunately, his brother sees him as well. First, Tae-san looks for Sigma at Quantum's party as well, only to encounter Seo-hae. He warns her to stay away from him, most likely because of his foresight about Seo-hae and Tae-sul's wedding. First, Tae-san takes a photo of Tae-sul's and Seo-hae's wedding. He gets captured by Sigma afterwards. He wakes up sometime in the future and goes back to the past as second Tae-san. In his luggage, he brings his undeveloped camera, film, and the blueprints for the uploader. Second Tae-san arrives in front of the flying aircraft and survives the fall. By picking this destination, the luggage will arrive in the grass plains below the aircraft. Second Tae-san takes the blueprint but leaves the camera inside for his brother. Second Tae-san makes a deal with the Asia Mart gang not to harm Tae-sul. Second Tae-san visits Agnes and asks her to put him into a wandering state with the blueprint. This way Sigma won't have access to the blueprint. She gives him the first injection cure for the flicker. Second Tae-san wanders back to where his parents and his brother are at the beach when they were children. After some time, he meets wandering Tae-sul and injects him with the medicine he has. The rest continues on with the events laid out in the K-drama, or the Alpha 2 timeline. Second Tae-san does not show up at the conference and the quantum party because it would imply that Second Tae-san doesn't know who Sigma is. When he travels back to the past, he already knows who Sigma is, which is why he decides to hide with the blueprints. After Tae-sul kills himself, he wakes up in an airplane with Seo-hae next to him. He knows it's impossible for her to be there unless he traveled from the future, but he doesn't care. He tosses away the pills meant to take away his hallucinations and embraces the time he has with her in the afterlife. Some people speculate this is another point in time, but I don't think it's possible. He's pretty much dead. I know, I'm breaking a lot of hearts here, but that's true. He's gone. Tae-sul is not coming back. He knew what he was getting himself into when he pulled that trigger. Time has no place in the afterlife. If it did, Tae-sul would have seen his parents on the airplane too. But it really doesn't matter because he's happy. Seo-hae will be happy too. She may not grow up to live a life knowing Tae-sul, but she'll have her family and might even meet Jason one day for those with second lead syndrome. Another theory you could probably come up with is that the Seo-hae in Tae-sul's afterlife is the Seo-hae from the Alpha timeline. After all, the Alpha timeline doesn't exist anymore. I mean, Seo-hae did disappear. So where do all of the people from there go? If they wander and sleep like in Tae-sul's vision, it might be possible that this Seo-hae is the exact same one we've grown to love in the show. So what do you know? They got a happy ending anyway. What is the show trying to tell us? Now, the last minute of the show left a lot of questions more than answers. Sigma has somewhat mentally improved and has moved on from the past. However, his character personality that is obsessed with Tae-sul never disappears. Although the search and desire for time travel will never go away as long as we have regrets that we choose to ignore, Sigma's motive for creating time travel is to live up to and surpass his role model, Tae-sul, as Seo-hae's father's notebook reveals that Tae-sul has successfully proven time travel is possible. So I guess technically now Seo-hae's father's notebook is Sigma's catalyst in the Gamma timeline. But let's not think too much about the other timelines. Let's get back to what the show's trying to tell us. So I guess the show is trying to tell us these few things. People don't change the way we expect them to. You can't disobey your fate, but you can change your actions. The future is already here, you just don't know it yet. Now this is the quantum time slogan, which generally means that there is no future, only what you're doing right now. Tending to your past regrets is never really about the regret itself, but about you. Do you save the world or save your loved ones? Saving the world will save lives, but will leave you lonely. This is what Seo-hae did when she decided to go back to the past and prevent the missiles from firing. By doing so, she left her only family, her father, and he died. Saving your loved ones may destroy the world, but not your family. This is what Tae-sul does when he goes on the hunt for his brother. By doing so, the world around him started to fall apart and Sigma took control of his company and everything around him. Happiness is the memories you make with people. The past can't change, only the future, which is the present. And that's my take on Sisyphus, the myth. Will there be a season 2? I hope not. It was already a headache to dissect this K-drama and I can't even imagine what it would look like. Unfortunately, the ratings were just fine, so we might not see a season 2. I'd be okay with a movie though, maybe to wrap things up or show the story from another person's perspective. Just, don't give me 16 more hours, please. Anywho, thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts, theories, and speculations on this show in the comments below. See you next time.